In 1996, when I returned home after climbing Everest, the main question I got from journalists, not just men, women too, was if it was harder for me to climb Everest being a woman climber. I was 26 by then, and I didn't understand the question at all, because for me, there is no such a thing as a woman climber and a man climber. We are just climbers. That's a reason for me that climbing is a metaphor of life. Not only I didn't understand the question, I didn't understand why they keep asking the same question again and again, and why they didn't ask to my fellow climbers a similar question like, was it easy for you to climb Everest being a man? That will be ridiculous, right? So why it doesn't sound ridiculous the other way around? For me, climbing shows that mountains doesn't recognize gender. Mountains make us equal. And my answer for that question, it's always the same. Do you think a mountain changes when a man climbs it, that when a woman climbs it? Do you really believe the slope change when a man steps on it or when a woman steps on it? So that's why mountains for me doesn't recognize gender. In 1996, during the worst tragedy of the history of Everest, 13 people died. There was a big storm combined with the altitude, with the lack of oxygen, and probably too many people with lack of knowledge that create this incident. My team and I, we were there at that time, and we helped. We did something like, you can call it the rescue. And there was a lot of people desperate, I feel, grasping for life. And we literally took them down the mountain. There were others that we couldn't help, and a few died, but that's another sad story, not part of this one. But the thing is that in a very extreme situation, when you see a helping hand coming out in the middle of a storm, would you care if it comes from a man or from a woman? We already know the answer for that. I'm making up this point because, for me, in a very basic level, our subconscious doesn't make a distinction between genders. If we were able to peel off the layers that cover us with history, education, culture, religion, society, what it will be left, it will be just a human being. So, which are the ways to integrate men in gender equity? Well, I have a couple of ideas. One will be to grab them and to peel them off and see what's in there. But I guess we cannot do that. That will be physical torture, so forget about it. Another one will be to push them to the extreme to see how they react to the edge of a cliff. But that will be psychological torture. We cannot do that neither. So I'm going to point 3 ways to integrate men in gender equity. First, and most simple, to identify other men already acting with equity and use them as an example for others to emulate, because seeing an example of the desired behavior, it's more effective than just explaining the concept. Second, we have to take actions. One of the things that I learned by climbing a mountain is that if you really want to achieve something, you don't wait for things to happen. You make them happen. We cannot wait for time, just go and wait. I cannot sit in a rock for 20,000 million years and wait to the summit of Everest, go down to the sea level like once it was. First of all, because I don't have that time, and second, because nothing assures me that Everest will shrink. Maybe we'll keep go higher. Our actions, the example we set, will be the example for our kids. And education, as you probably know, is the most powerful tool we have. But today we are talking about the adults, the men that already grew up, even if they are like kids. So the third point is to use dialogue without aggressivity. If you really want to get things from people, don't put them between the devil and the deep blue sea. That will never work. Empathy is the best tool. And I'm going to give you an example of that. In 2002, I went to Pakistan to climb K2. Pakistan, it's one of those countries where the equity we are looking for is probably the harder to find. I was the leader of the expedition, and as a leader, I had to deal with the liaison officer. A liaison officer, it's an army person imposed by the government of Pakistan to check on you that you don't spy and send important information about the Baltoro Glacier to the Indians. The Baltoro Glacier is where K2 is ubicated, and India is on the border, and as you know, they are not very good friends. Our liaison officer was a captain of the Pakistani army, and I was 32, tiny and blonde, not inspiring any respect to this man. On the other hand, he didn't know how to deal with a woman leading, and he was imposing his aims on top of the expedition needs. That made me go through all kinds of issues and troubles, issues that were not that hard on other expeditions where leaders were men. So this was also taking all the energy of the expedition down, and I was start losing the high confidence I always had in myself. Here I was facing a situation where I would say that the layer I had to peel off was the thicker and the harder I will ever find in my life. But instead of using a drill or an electric hammer to break it, I use something softer, like hot water. I use dialogue and empathy. It takes longer, but it works better. So we have this tool to have a discussion, and it's our job to learn how to use it. It's not only their job. And here there's a few tools to have hard conversations without starting a war, and most important, getting some results. You have to focus on the positive outcome. Probably you will create and recreate hundreds of times the conversation in your mind, and it's common when dwelling with hard and difficult topics to think in a negative way. But that's not a good idea. First, because you don't know what the other is going to say. And second, because thinking that way, you will guide in real life your conversation to a negative ending. So if you have to create and recreate the story in your mind, do it in the best possible scenario. Another thing is to stick in the main idea. Don't get lost with things, ideas around that will not help to the point. Just stay on that idea. Once you say what you want to say, let the other talk without interruption. And most important, discussion is not a battle. It's not the objective. It's not about assigning blame or guilt. It's about finding a solution and reaching an agreement. So after I see how this dialogue work with my liaison officer, a captain of the Pakistani army changed. Of course, I didn't mean to change the whole Pakistani system or the culture, but just one person, just one man. So change is possible, but you know, humans beings, we have a high resistance to change. Why is that? Well, changing it means a new way of thinking. On change, we fear that we will lose things, but we fail to believe that we may win new things. And also, change means also that we'll go to uncertainty, to unknown, and we didn't learn at school how to deal with that. Most of the times, we just change when we have no more options. But some people, They don't need the pressure to change. Who are those? Well, those are the ones that they don't fear to the unknown, the ones that they don't think they will lose any status or any comfort. Those tools are also for changing the tools that will help us to integrate men in this equity by pointing examples of men already acting with this equity, by taking actions ourselves. Don't expect they will change by themselves. And with dialogue, with aggressivity to engage men in the personal basis. Let's show them that a new way of thinking comes along with new opportunities. Mountain doesn't change when a man or a woman step on it. Just let me give you this idea that mountains and nature make us equal. Moltes gràcies. Thank you very much.